Now let's move on to economy from the month of October. The first topic is the fourth round of quarterly employment survey, marginal increase in employment. The government has released the result of fourth round of quarterly employment survey. Now it is released by the Labour Bureau, which is in the Ministry of Labour and Employment. Its purpose is to provide frequent, that is quarterly updates about employment in both organized and unorganized segment of 9 sectors. Now these sectors altogether account for a majority of the total employment in non-farm establishments. These include manufacturing, construction, trade, transport, education, health, accommodation and restaurants, IT, BPO, and financial services. There are two components under All India Quarterly Establishment-Based Employment Survey. Quarterly Employment Survey compiles relevant data from 12,000 establishments, and Area Frame Establishment Survey covers the unorganized segment with less than 10 workers through a sample survey. Now, key highlights from the fourth round of QES is that employment is showing an increasing trend in the selected sectors of the economy. The estimated employment increased from 3.14 crores in the third quarter to 3.18 crore in fourth quarter, marginal increase. Now, the largest employing sector is the manufacturing, and manufacturing continues to be the largest institutional employer in the country, employing 38.5% of the workers. It is followed by education sector, which is with 21.7%. Now, women participation worker witnessed a marginal increase from 31.6% in the third quarter to 31.8% in the fourth quarter report. Now, women workers constitute about 52% of the workforce in health sector. In financial services, women far outnumber male among self-employed persons. Now, categories of worker, around 86.4% of the workers were regular employees and 8.7% were contractual employees, followed by casual employees, that is 2.3%, and self-employed 2%. The share of fixed-term employees in the establishments was found to be least, that is 0.7% overall. Now, PLI schemes for solar cell manufacturing. The Union Cabinet has approved the implementation of PLI scheme on National Program on High Efficiency Solar PV modules. Now, about the National Program on High Efficiency Solar PV modules, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy is the nodal ministry. The aim of the program is to build an ecosystem for manufacturing of high-efficiency solar PV modules in India and thus reduce import dependence in the area of renewable energy. Under the scheme, solar PV manufacturers will be selected through a transparent selection process. The PLI will be dispersed for 5 years post-commissioning of solar PV manufacturing plants of high-efficiency solar PV modules from domestic market will be incentivized. Now, expected benefits of the scheme are: it is estimated that about 65 gigawatt per annum manufacturing capacity of solar PV modules would be installed, generate employment and direct investment, import substitution of approximately 1.37 lakh crores, and provide impetus to research and development to achieve higher efficiency solar PV modules. Now let's move on to Fund of Funds for Startup. The Fund of Funds for Startup has committed 7,385 crore to 88 alternate investment funds. These alternate investment funds in turn have invested approximately 11,206 crores in 720 startups. Now, about the Fund of Funds for Startups, it was launched in 2016 under the Startup India initiative. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry, that is the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, is the nodal ministry. Its aim is to increase capital availability as well as to catalyze private investment and thereby accelerate the growth of Indian startup ecosystem. The fund was announced with a corpus of 10,000 crore rupees. Now, features are that FFS does not invest in startups directly but provides capital to SEBI-registered alternate investment funds, that is AIFs, known as daughter funds, which in turn invest money in high-potential Indian startups. SIDBI has been given the mandate of managing FFS through selection of daughter funds and overseeing the dispersal of committed capital. Now, FFS has not only made capital available for startups at an early stage, seed stage, and growth stage, but also played a catalytic role in facilitating the raising of domestic capital, reducing dependence on foreign capital, and encouraging homegrown and new venture capital funds. Now, Telecom Technology Development Fund, the Universal Service Obligation Fund, has launched the Telecom Technology Development Fund scheme. Now, USOF is the pool of funds generated by 5% universal service levy that is charged upon all telecom operators on their adjusted gross revenue, that is AGR. Now, the draft telecom bill has said that USOF shall be referred to as the Telecommunication Development Fund, and the USOF has largely been used to aid rural connectivity. But the objective of TDF is also to boost connectivity in underserved urban areas, research and development, and skill development, etc. Now, salient features of TTDP is that it aims to fund R&D in rural-specific communication technology applications and form synergies among academia, startups, research institutes, and the industry to build and develop the telecom ecosystem, promote technology ownership and indigenous manufacturing, reduce imports, boost export opportunities, and creation of intellectual property. It also wants to develop standards to meet country-wide requirement and create the ecosystem for research, design, prototyping, etc. The scheme entails grants to Indian entities to encourage and induct indigenous technologies tailor-made to meet domestic needs. Moving on, we have tokenization. Now, RBI card on file tokenization norms have become operational from October 1, 2022. Now, tokenization refers to the replacement of actual card, that is credit or debit card details, with an alternate code called token. Now, the token will be unique for a combination of cards, token requester, the entity which accepts the request from the customer for tokenization of a card and passes it on to the card network to issue corresponding token, and the device. From now on, any purchases done online or through mobile apps, merchant payment aggregators, and payment gateways will not be able to save crucial customer card details such as 3-digit CVV and expiry date. According to the RBI data, till the end of July 2022, there were 92.8 crore debit cards and 8 crore credit cards. Now, some of the benefits of tokenization is that tokenized card transactions are considered safer as the actual card details are not shared with the merchant during the transaction. In case of any data breach, the customer's card detail will be protected. The token requester number stores primary account number cannot store. They cannot store the PAN card number or any other card details. Now, card networks are also mandated to get token requesters certified for safety and security that conforms to international best practices or globally accepted standards. Now, moving on to the impossible Trinity, a monetary policy trilemma. Now, the change in US monetary policy to curb inflation has brought about the impossible Trinity into focus. Now, the idea was proposed independently by Canadian economist Robert Mundell and British economist Marcus Fleming in early 1960s. It refers to the idea that an economy cannot simultaneously pursue an independent monetary policy, that is, set any interest rate, maintain a fixed exchange rate, and allow free flow of capital across its border at the same time. According to economists, any economy choose to pursue only 2 out of the 3 policy options simultaneously in the long run. Now, impossible Trinity in the present world is that in today's world, capital is largely free to move across borders with ease. So the choice before policy makers is between maintaining a fixed exchange rate and pursuing an independent monetary policy. So the government may follow any of the 2 conditions below. That is the condition 1. If policymakers choose to peg or maintain the value of the currency at a certain level against a foreign currency, this decision will limit the monetary policy, that is the interest rate they adopt in the long run. Now, the decision to peg the currency exchange value of a currency can tie down the hands of central bank when it comes to their domestic monetary policy stance. Now, condition 2 is when the policymaker of a country chooses to pursue independent monetary policy, they might not be able to maintain the foreign exchange value of their currency at the desired peg. This is because the kind of monetary policy adopted by the economy's central bank invariably influences the exchange value of its currency against foreign currencies. In the past, when strict capital controls were used to regulate the flow of capital across borders, economies could choose to pursue independent monetary policy and still hope to maintain a certain exchange value against foreign currencies. The impossible Trinity or the trilemma on RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, may also face dilemma of choosing between maintaining the value of rupee holding on to its monetary policy independence. For example, the present Fed rate hike has been increasing pressure on rupee. The rupee has depreciated approximately 10% against the US dollar this year. Moving on to poverty and shared prosperity, a World Bank report. Now, the World Bank has released a report titled Poverty and Shared Prosperity. Now, some of the key findings of the report are that by 2015, the global extreme poverty rate has been cut by more than 50%. Global poverty reduction has been slowing since 2015. COVID pandemic and the war in Ukraine have completely reversed the outcomes. The world is unlikely to meet the goal of ending extreme poverty by 2030. Moving on, in 2020, the number of people living below the extreme poverty line rose by 70 million on account of COVID-19. Now, the poorest people bore the steepest cost of pandemic. Income losses averaged 4% for the poorest, 40%. Global inequality rose for the first time in decades. Now, global median income declined by 4% in 2020. This is the first decline since measurement of median income began in 1990. Now, key findings of the report related to India is that poverty has gone up in India. Previous estimates suggested a poverty headcount rate that is taking $1.9 poverty line at 10%. which means the headcount rate was at 10.4% in 2017, but in the recent report suggests that poverty at $1.9 poverty line was 13.6% in 2017. Now, the report mentions the lack of recent survey data significantly affects the measurement of global poverty. The report uses data from Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, that is CMIE, because there are no official estimates of poverty available since 2011. The government has not released the 2018-19 National Sample Survey round because of concerns about data quality. Suggestions of the report are that the fiscal policy offers opportunities for policymakers in developing economies to step up their fight against poverty and inequality. The World Bank has three specific suggestions when it comes to fiscal policy. The first one is choosing targeted cash transfers instead of broad subsidies, prioritizing public spending for long-term growth, and mobilizing tax revenues without hurting the poor. Moving on to plant-based meat products, the Agriculture and Processed Food Products Export Authority, that is APIDA, has facilitated the export of plant-based meat products under vegan food category to the US. Now, about the plant-based meat products, it is a meat derived from plants. It is manufactured to taste, look, and feel like traditional meat from animal products. Plant-based meat is healthier than regular meat as it is lower in calories and saturated fats. Now, the significance of plant-based meat industry is that India is the largest producer of pulses in the world, accounting for 25% of the total output. However, more than 70% of the people in India are protein deficient. Deficiency can be caused by a lack of awareness and less consumption of a sufficient amount of protein on a regular basis. Now, plant-based protein sources can play a vital role in treating deficiency as they not only offer varieties but also pocket-friendly options. Difference between plant-based and cultured meat is that plant-based meats are made up of plant-derived ingredients but are designed to look and taste like real meat. However, cultured meat is a fairly new concept that refers to meat grown in a lab from a small sample of cells taken from an animal. The procedure requires an extraction of stem cell from the donor animal, which then proliferates to produce animal tissue structures.